The Haunted Hospital. In a small city in the south, there was a young man named Nicholas. Since childhood, he has been messing around everywhere. Even his parents can't advise him. The more he grows up, the more Nicholas looks like a villain or gangster. Come on, this game I won again. So what? Do you have enough money to continue, Mr. Nicholas? Nicholas is naughty and loves gambling. All of his parents' money they worked hard to earn is spent in the surrounding big and small casinos. At first, he often wins, then gradually, he loses all the money day by day. One day, Nicholas's parents passed away. No one else could provide money for him. After his parents died, Nicholas continued to gamble, eventually selling all his properties, even his parents' house, to pay the debt. When there's no house or money left, his life became complicated, so he decided to find a job. Unfortunately, he is not only addicted to gambling but also lazy. If the job is light, he disparages the low salary. If it was a high-paying job, he disparages the job as too hard for him. So he still hasn't found a job to do. One day, he accidentally saw a piece of paper with the following content: recruiting staff to work at the morgue. Working time from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m., $300 per month. He did not pay attention to the job, but to pay attention to the time and salary. He felt like a butterfly in his stomach, thinking, this is probably the job for him. Nicholas is not afraid to work at the morgue. Working at night, he can sleep or go gambling freely during the day. The salary is still so high. Nicholas was so happy that he did not notice that the paper on the wall followed that back and disappeared as he turned his back. Nicholas followed the address on the paper to find the hospital. It was an old, dilapidated hospital, surrounded by overgrown weeds. This made him think a little. Some of the hospital's glass windows were broken. The walls were almost peeling off, looking like an abandoned hospital. Nicholas hesitantly put his hand in his pocket and stood watching for a while. But he finally got his determination, suppressed the strange thoughts that were about to arise, and stepped inside the hospital. But strangely, he went around in the lobby below the hospital, but he found no one. An entire large hospital but could not see a single person. This is really strange. Why is this so weird? There's even nobody in the emergency room? Is this really an abandoned hospital? After walking around for a while, Nicholas felt extremely upset. He could not find a single person. Maybe I should go. There aren't any reasons left to stay. Maybe someone else stuck that paper to tease others. Just when Nicholas had such a thought and was about to leave, suddenly, he felt a hand touch behind his back. Help me. There are ghosts. The sudden touch made Nicholas feel cold. He suddenly yelled loudly and then pulled his legs up in a panic and ran away. Hey you, what are you doing sneakily here? Why are you running so fast all of a sudden? What? Wait. While running, Nicholas heard a female voice. Now he calmed down a bit. He thought about something, then stopped, then turned his head to look back to see. Standing behind Nicholas turned out to be no ghost. It was a young girl wearing a blouse. Perhaps the touch just now belonged to this doctor. Oh, it turned out to be the doctor. How embarrassing. I thought earlier. What are you come here sneakily for? Nicholas explained to the young female doctor. But before he could finish his sentence, the female doctor asked, well, I saw a morgue recruitment notice. Ah, so you're here to apply for a job. Our hospital is indeed recruiting people. Nicholas quickly explained to the young female doctor that he saw the announcement of recruiting people, so he came to apply for a job. When the female doctor heard that, she immediately remembered. All right, I'll lead you to the morgue to hand over the job with the old employee there. Follow me. After that, the young female doctor told Nicholas to follow her. she would take him to accept the job. Nicholas obeyed and followed behind the female doctor. "Hello, Dr. Emma. This is Uncle Thomas, who will hand over the job to you." Uncle Thomas, after handing over the job to this guy, "You can go home already." "Thank you." The doctor led Nicholas through a dark corridor to the room next to the morgue. There, she introduced him to Uncle Thomas, who would hand over the work to him. "Thank you, Doctor. Have a leisurely walk, Dr. Emma." The man whose name Uncle Thomas also said a greeting to the young female doctor. "Hi, young man. What's your name?" "Oh, my name is Nicholas." Uncle Thomas lit a cigarette while asking Nicholas a few questions. Nicholas also answered the question. "Oh, people still call me Uncle Thomas. The work here is so simple. You only need to take a walk around to see the morgue at work. Then you can go back to sleep for up to 5 hours. At work, you only need to take a walk around to see the morgue. Then you can go back to sleep until 5 in the morning. Then check one last time. Then you'll be able to leave. Because I'm old, my children do not allow me to do this job anymore." Uncle Thomas did not ask more about Nicholas's background but began to hand over the work. "Oh, that is too simple. This is the job that I need. Don't be happy, it's easy but challenging. There are certain things you must keep in mind carefully. Those are taboo when working here." Upon hearing Uncle Thomas's words, Nicholas was like having a butterfly in his stomach. But when Uncle Thomas continued to say the following sentence, Nicholas started to feel a bit worried. Didn't know what those taboos were, sounded a little scared. "Oh, what are those taboos? Hope you can tell me. Listen carefully. Do not open the morgue after 12 o'clock at night. Limit going out to the duty room after that time. You should have a straight sleep until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning." Nicholas quickly asked Uncle Thomas. Uncle Thomas did not hide anything but enthusiastically said all the critical taboos to him. "Remember those carefully?" "I've got it carefully. Thank you, Uncle Thomas." Nicholas even took a careful note of all that Uncle Thomas said. "Here, I'll hand over the morgue key and the room key to you. Well, after 12 o'clock at night, you must not open the door of the duty room for strangers, but if you hear Dr. Emma, then you can open the door." After the handover was completed, Uncle Thomas reminded Nicholas one more thing, then leave. "Come home and rest." Nicholas stood there for a while. He followed Uncle Thomas's back shadow until that shadow disappeared in the dark corridor. "It's a bit cold." After Uncle Thomas left, the surroundings were so quiet, leaving only a cold, scary empty space. The whole hospital was so large, but no one came or left, which made Nicholas somehow bewildered and wondered. But he thought maybe Uncle Thomas had been here for so long. Why would a young man like him be scared? With that thought, Nicholas felt less nervous. Before working time, Nicholas went out to buy a bottle of wine. The small amount of money wasn't enough for him to buy a little more food. But well, a bottle of wine might help him a little too. Nicholas took a few sips to get some courage, then went to check the morgue for a round, and then went back to drink. Drinking alcohol made Nicholas feel sleepy, then he gradually fell asleep in his chair. When Nicholas woke up startled and looked up at his watch, he saw that it was ticking at 12 o'clock. Well, he thought, how can he wake up at this time and even want to pee? Nicholas tried not to pee to sleep, but he could not. Then Nicholas hurriedly went to the toilet. After that was done, he hurried back. But as he passed the morgue, something scary happened. There was a knock on the door, sounding hard from the inside of the morgue. Nicholas feels strange. Before he could think of anything, his hands and feet were faster than his brain. He found himself taking out the key, inserting the key into the lock, and about to open the morgue door. After 12 o'clock at night, no matter what you hear, Don't open the morgue's door." As soon as the key was inserted inside, Nicholas suddenly recalled what Uncle Thomas told him. Nicholas quickly pulled out his key in panic, then quickly ran back to the duty room. The path from the morgue to the duty room was a little bit. But for some reason, he was struggling to breathe, sweating all over his body. As soon as Nicholas pressed the lock on the door of the duty room, a knock suddenly rang out. The second knock at midnight made Nicholas startled. Nicholas's hand was faster than his brain. It was about to open the door when Uncle Thomas's words were echoing in his ears once more. That the sound not to open the door of the duty room for strangers after 12 o'clock. "Open the door for me." Nicholas quickly withdrew his hand back. He did not understand why he was going to disobey Uncle Thomas twice, almost opening the door. "Who are you? It's already late, and why are you knocking on the door so loudly?" There was a female voice outside. Nicholas heard that it was not Dr. Emma's voice. He quickly spoke to the person who was knocking on the door outside. "Quickly open the door for me. I have an urgent business. It's midnight now. What's so urgent? Come back tomorrow morning." Nicholas kept saying sentence by sentence to the woman outside without opening the door for her. "I just dreamed of my son asking for help. He said that he was not dead, but he was trapped inside the morgue. If you don't help him quickly, he will die." The woman outside noticed that Nicholas still refuses to open the door for her, then tearfully begged Nicholas to open the morgue to search for her son. "Nonsense. Madam, how can someone who has been taken to the morgue be alive? Are you kidding me? No, I'm not joking with you. Quickly open the door." Nicholas heard what the woman outside said. Recalling the knock at the morgue earlier, he felt scared. He couldn't believe her words. "Madam, it's not like I don't want to help, but the rule here is not to open the morgue after 12 o'clock at night. Don't knock on the door in vain. I don't want to go against the rules and get fired." Nicholas noticed that the people from the outside had no intention of going, so he took out the hospital's regulations to threaten to get the woman away. Anyway, he doesn't want to get into trouble on the first day of work at all. "I beg you to save my son. Otherwise, he will die. If you disagree, I'm going to kneel here." There was a thud from outside, probably the sound of knees hitting the floor. The woman could not convince Nicholas, so she used the strategy of suffering from deceiving him. She cried while kneeling to the ground and begged. "I said I couldn't help." Nicholas really couldn't stand this inconvenience and opened the door angrily. Outside the door, there was actually a woman kneeling on the cold floor. "Stand up first." Nicholas, who stood looking at her for a long time, also felt soft. He then raised his hand to support her. But as soon as he lightly touched the woman's shoulder blades, a chill ran down his spine that made Nicholas shiver. "Finally, you open the door. Hurry up, help me quickly, save my son." Nicholas had not thought of anything about the sudden chill before the woman hurriedly stood up from the ground. Her pale face and tears made her look pitiful. She kept crying, begging Nicholas to take her to the morgue to save her son. "But still, that's enough. Come with me, hurry up, and I'll go back to sleep." "Thank you." Nicholas hates bothers the most. He knew that if he doesn't lead this woman to the morgue, she won't leave him alone. So he agreed to take her to the morgue. He also forgot the advice of the person called Uncle Thomas. The woman hurriedly followed after Nicholas, and along the way, she thanked Nicholas very much. As soon as he arrived at the morgue, Nicholas entered the lock and opened the door. After that, he went inside the morgue with the woman one by one. Suddenly, cold wind and the smell of corpses entered his nose, causing Nicholas to close his eyes and sneeze several times. After stabilizing his breath and opening his eyes, Nicholas hurriedly turned to the woman just now. But strangely, the person who was standing next to him has disappeared now, slightly. How strange. Where did she go? At this moment, Nicholas still couldn't think much of it. He felt a little puzzled, then took out the flashlight that had been tucked into his pants pocket earlier, then turned it on, glancing around while walking around in search. After a while, Nicholas found a body covered with a white cloth on a bed inside the morgue. At this point, he began to feel fear. Apparently, at first, he checked there was nobody. There was only an empty bed inside the morgue. How come now? Nicholas shook up one hand without holding a flashlight. He grabbed a corner of the cloth, tremblingly pulled out the white cloth. Underneath the white cloth was the body of a woman, that looked just like the woman standing next to him. What had just seen made Nicholas took a few steps back in fear and shouted out loud. He dropped the flashlight and fell onto the ground. There's a ghost. A few seconds later, Nicholas tried to stand up, then did not have time to pick up the flashlight but immediately ran away, running while screaming in panic. He is feeling scared because he disobeyed Uncle Thomas's instructions. Without the flashlight, the outside of the morgue turned pitch black, the shadow almost wanting to swallow everything. This made Nicholas falter a bit. He intended to go back to pick up the flashlight and go. "Young man, have you found my son? He's still alive, isn't he?" A second later, a cold voice came from behind him, a voice that sounded like it was coming from hell. "Hey, where are you running? Hurry up and help me find my son." At that time, Nicholas had no more thought of looking for a flashlight. He quickly ran away real quick. The voice behind him kept ringing in his ear, so that Nicholas did not dare to turn his head. He did not dare to stop for a second. Nicholas kept running and running but still can't reach the duty room. The distance from the duty room to the morgue just only took a few minutes yet. Nicholas feels like he's been running for half an hour, but there is no sign of the door to the duty room. Nicholas's legs are exhausted. He is almost exhausted. His legs are about to leave him. But he did not dare to stop. He kept running, running in the dark night. As he ran, he silently prayed that he could escape this evil place as much as possible. He doesn't need money anymore. This place is so scary like that. Even with more money, he wouldn't dare to do it. Nicholas ran for a while, then he was again disappointed and frightened. He was back in front of the morgue. There were two blurry bodies from the morgue door, looking like a woman along with a child. Nicholas's heart beats faster and faster. "Young man, stop running. I found my son. We're so alone, stay with us." It is the woman from before. At this moment, her eyes were bloodshot, her left arm was accompanied by a child. His eyes were the same red, their face was completely rotten, and they looked terrified. Her cold voice echoed again in the dark, echoing to Nicholas's ears, making him feel desperate. As soon as Nicholas turned around to run away, the scene behind him looked even more frightening. Right now, his legs were already stiff. "Young man, why don't you listen to me? Not being obedient will be punished." Nicholas saw the young female doctor and Uncle Thomas. Their appearance was terrifying, their eyes were as red as the other two. Nicholas was too scared, so his heart stopped beating. He fell to the ground and died in fear. At this time, the whole hospital returned to its desolate, terrifying cold. "Hey, there's someone died in that abandoned hospital again. How scary." Every few months, someone dies. That abandoned hospital is definitely haunted. A few days later, an anonymous person reported. The police went to the abandoned hospital and found the body. A forensic examination is that the other person died of a heart attack due to too much fear. The police could not find the reporter. They also received very many cases of this abandoned hospital, which was also implicit. The case gradually fell into oblivion. Scary, better stay away. Why there isn't any exorcist coming there? Those who know the story are scared to go near the abandoned hospital. My son is not dead. I'm begging you, please open the morgue. Obviously, I dreamed of him. Rumor has it that before the hospital accepted a patient who had an accident was a boy about 8 years old. The boy was injured too badly to survive. But the mother insisted that her child was not dead, went to the hospital all day to ask to open the morgue, but no one agreed with her. You are so cruel. I will make you bury with my son. Finally, the mother went mad and set fire to the hospital. Most of the people there escaped. Only the young Dr. Emma and Uncle Thomas guarding the morgue. They died in a sea of crimson flames. From then on, every few months, anonymous people report strange deaths inside that hospital. At first, the police tried to investigate but then were helpless. Many shamans came to see. They said that the resentment was too heavy, no one could support it. In a specific corner of the small city, the recruitment paper appeared again. There would be another unlucky guy at that time. Recruiting staff to work at the morgue. Working time from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m., $300 per month. Don't know when the story of that haunted hospital can be stopped.